Today we're going to swap the CRF250 Rally clutch because I've killed it on a previous event, as you saw in one of my last videos. So I've already stripped down I've taken the oil out, I've removed all of the coolant, and I've stripped off the brake lever as well to give us access to this. So what we need to do next is remove all of the 8mm screws holding this in place.
With this particular clutch replacement, I've decided to go for the CBR 250 300 one. It's an upgrade from the CRF 250 clutch in that you don't have the silly little judder springs in it, and I feel like a man of my stature, 18 stone of it, would benefit from a slightly beefier clutch. As the bike's only done about 6,000 miles, I think a dead clutch at this early stage kind of shows you that it's not the best one in the world.
Oh, look at the state of that. So I've pulled off the engine casing. It just needed a little bit of a prying off, not much really. And all the bolts around the outside were actually almost hand tight. So as you can see, the actual clutch, I guess this is the retainer, is brown, which means it's pretty much burnt out. So it'd be interesting to see when we get the clutch plates out how busted they are.
Removing the clutch plate retainer is really easy. The bolts are hardly done up tight at all. I decided to go for the heavy duty clutch springs on the replacement, which I go on to later in the video.
I'd love a cup of tea. Oh my god.
What?
Yeah, they're gone. They're supposed to be brown. They're black.
What's supposed to be brown?
These.
Oh.
So yeah. This is one of the clutch plates, and as you can see, it's completely and utterly burnt to a crisp. So yeah, definitely need to replace him. These are still plates. These are actually looking okay still, just discoloured. I'm just going to give them a good scratch up and put them back in probably. So as you can see, let's get rid of that. These clutch plates are absolutely done. The steel plates I think are okay. They're probably just going to need a bit of roughing up before they go back in, but I think they're okay to be reused. If I can pick them up. I think they're okay to be reused. I might change those yet, I'm not sure. But this, on the CRF, you have four normal plates, I think it is. 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the fifth one is half size. And then you have these judder springs in here. And the judder springs I'm going to replace with CBR 300 clutch plates all through, and remove the judder plates, the judder springs, not judder plates, because I've seen people do that. If you follow the lightweight adventurers, they've done the same, so I'm just following their guide. So I've removed the judder springs, or whatever they're called, these things. And now we'll move on to, once we've cleaned off the remaining gaskets, there's a little bit of residue on the gasket here as well, so I need to get a knife or Stanley knife on that just to clear off. All there is to do now is put the new clutch plates in and the stronger springs and basically build it back.
Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks since I've been working on the bike, and purely because this took a really long time to come. But we have all the parts now, and I've decided to stick with the original steels. They look pretty discoloured, but they're nice and roughed up now. Going to get rid of the judder springs and upgrade to the CBR 250 300 friction plates. Here they are. And heavy duty clutch spring. Got some coolant to go back in, and of course some oil. Okay, so I've got all my bits laid out to go back in. I've got my clutch plate soaking in a little bit of oil. You don't have to do this, you can just smear them in a bit of oil. Got my heavy duty clutch springs,
nuts and bolts and the steels, and we're all good to go. Get it back on the bike. I've already been round with a razor blade to clean the edges of the old gasket off as well, as best as I possibly could. So we're down here with the bike and then start reassembling. And the first job is to put back in the clutch, steels and friction plates. Now, because we're not putting the judder springs in anymore, we start off with friction plate and then steel, and then we carry on the same until we've got everything back in. Steels and the clutch plates all back in place, as you can see, all nicely soaked in oil and ready to go. So that's the clutch all now reassembled, and you can see the bolts are all now tightened up. You don't have to tighten this up very tight at all, literally, you know, just over hand height. I'll put the torque settings up, but they're really easy to do. Just make sure you do them in a opposite fashion as you do them up. So for my next job, it's to put the gasket onto the engine casing. Basically just a case of laying it onto the engine casing and putting the casing back onto the engine. So the gasket's on the casing, and I just need to get it up on there without pinching anything or anything moving too much. I've decided to put the gasket on the engine because it just wasn't happening the other way around, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, so the engine casing is placed back on. I've replaced the clutch cable just because I feel like it was easier to do before putting that back together. So now all we've got to do is just put all the bolts back in, and that's it. So before I put the brake assembly back on, what I've done is I've filled it back up with oil. You can check out the video link up there to see how to change oil on these things. And I put the coolant back in as well. And I'm going to run it up to temperature, check for any leaks, and then I'll finally reassemble this, because getting this out of the way before removing this is a bit of a pain. So I wanted to check it's all good before I put this back on.
So at this stage, I'm just checking the engine for any leaks, making sure there's no oil residue or coolant residue anywhere where it shouldn't be, and making sure the oil level is in the correct place. And then I'll take it out for a proper test ride.
The CRF250 is now fixed, has a brand new clutch in it off of the CBR 250 300, so it's technically an upgrade. Got rid of those judder springs, not that I even noticed them, but it feels good. Just a quick ride around the block, everything engages okay, so look for a new video testing that out on the CRF250. I'm really pleased with how that went. It only took me about an hour, and I'm no mechanic, and I managed to do it here in my garage, so yeah, what a result. The only problem I had was getting the parts in, but once they turned up it was easy, just reverse job. If this is your first time watching the channel, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Tom CC.